This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you. It's 9 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. First off is the land acknowledgement, and I believe, Martin, you're doing that today.
Yeah, I am actually. Yes. So
Good.
we'll start with as we gather, we recognize and acknowledge the traditional keepers of this land with whom we share today. The township of Southgate is a part of the traditional territories of the Anishinaabeg, Six Nations of the Grand River, Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the Haudenosaunee, and Saugeen Métis. The land that surrounds us is a part of who we are as it reflects our histories, and may we live in peace and friendship with all its diverse people.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we can move on to open forum. Do we have anyone registered, Lindsay?
Yes, Mayor Woodbury. We have Heather and Tom Arnott. I see they're on the screen there. They both have signed up.
Okay. Anyone else?
That was everyone, Mayor Woodbury.
Okay. So Heather and Tom, if you'd like to go ahead individually or together, or however the system works best for you guys, looking forward to hearing from you.
Well, good morning, everyone. First, we just want to make a big thank you. We received the agenda for the meeting today. Well, I guess we signed in for it. And boy, we really have to appreciate what staff and council go through with these council meetings. It's just amazing to us to see what the details and everything that have to go through all the time. So first of all, we want to thank you. We are going to just address a couple of things for the Wilder Lake subdivision. We see that's a topic here. One of them is, again, just to acknowledge what goes into putting these subdivision agreements together. When you read that number of pages, you just think, wow. So we appreciate that you have to get these things moving forward, only because we had been involved in the process, I guess, all along. We were advised by the county of the application for red line revision. So we probably appreciate the fact that there's going to be more work that goes into this still with that approval that hopefully is just pending to come through. So that's what I wanted to acknowledge is the work, the acknowledgement that there is some probably some amendments that are going to happen still. So off to Tom, because he's just going to address really one item.
Yep. Again, good morning, Mayor Woodbury and staff, council, everybody else that's on. I want, again, like Heather said, I want to thank for the opportunity to speak and certainly all the hard work that goes into this. I want to comment and make a suggestion on the subdivision agreement at Wilder Lake. And it deals with an issue that is passionate to many people, and it's the managing exterior nighttime lighting. As we read through the subdivision agreement and all the schedule, nighttime lighting was mentioned several times, but it was very non-specific and usually just mentioned about lighting fixtures. And in particular, I wanted to make reference to Schedule K, the Environmental Management Plan. And there was mention of lighting that was brief. It was 4 lines. And there were 4 other sections in that schedule that were on water, septic, stormwater, shorelines that were quite extensive and also included a number of do's and don'ts on those subjects. The brief mention of the lighting in that section might lead somebody to believe that nighttime lighting is strictly about fixtures, which couldn't be further from the truth. And it might also lead to the questions as, what exactly is a dark sky fixture? Because that was mentioned a number of times. Now, most of you received an email from us yesterday where we included a number of do's and don'ts that highlight that the issue of nighttime lighting isn't just about fixtures. And there was a diagram of what is considered acceptable and unacceptable nighttime fixtures, and that was information that was gleaned from the International Dark Sky Society, which is a pretty reputable worldwide organization that is heavily involved in this. And we also sent a very simple diagram of basic nighttime lighting. Now, we're really hoping that those three pieces of information could be included in Schedule K and of the subdivision agreement in the lighting section. And that would really provide a simple, concise, and easy to understand information on dark sky lighting for the developer, homeowners, and whoever else may read that document. And, if you start looking at the environmental issues worldwide, dealing with light pollution and the management of exterior lighting is often within the control of individual households. And in the context of Wilder Lake, it is every bit as important as shoreline management, septic management, stormwater management, and it's, the issue of light management. So once again, I want to thank you for your consideration of the possible inclusion of this information, in the subdivision agreement.
And that's it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And as you know, during the open forum, we don't comment or get into discussion, but your comments will definitely be taken into consideration as we get to the agreement. So thanks
Wonderful.
for your input.
Thank you.
Okay, Lindsay, there was no one else for open forum.
No one else. Yeah, no one else signed up, Mayor Woodbury.
Okay, so we shall move on then to confirmation of the agenda. I have a motion moved by Barbara, seconded by Martin. Any discussion on the agenda? Okay, anyone opposed? That is carried. Any declarations of pecuniary interest, declare now or at any time through the meeting, and send Lindsay as much paperwork as you want to or you can, because she likes that stuff. Next, we move on to our delegations. First, we have the motion moved by Jason, seconded by Jim, and it's Jammin for Juniors, Brenda Stewart. So welcome, Brenda. And I have to apologize, I didn't make it out the weekend, but we've been dealing with, I think if I said a multitude of medical things in my family, that would be an understatement lately. So I hope it all went well for you. So we could turn it over to you, Brenda.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no problems.
I may lose my voice a bit. I had the health issue myself, so I'm still getting my voice back. With the Jammin for Juniors, I'm just actually placing it forward because we have made a bit of a change. Instead of just asking for a donation, we've actually just recently sent in the paperwork to apply for a grant, so things have changed somewhat there. We are doing we've moved the Jammin for Juniors program to start in the spring because of a lot of people's health issues this year. What we do we are doing a music camp just outside of Dundalk. I have done this up north before on a weekly basis instead of as a camp, but we wanted to do it closer to home and include our local students. I am also working with the Explore the Arts program, so we're seeing the need for a music program for for people in this area. We would like to do the camp. What we're going to be doing is, or what we have just done is applied for a grant for the camp for $25,000. The camp is $39,000 to run, but we feel that the students do need to participate with some income. Plus, we also have a few other sponsors wanting to help us out. Sorry. And what we do with the Jammin for Juniors is we take a group of students, 1 to 20 students for 12 weeks, 12 days at the camp. And we teach them everything from how to wrap a cord, how to do stage presentation, confidence levels on speaking with people or singing to people. We do stage presence as well. We teach them how to do basic chording. If they're a little more advanced, we teach them more advanced chording. They get to work with 6 professional musicians during the course, and they also get to have experience on the stage at the end of the camp, where they will be putting on a show with other bands that have volunteered to work with them. We also have, sorry, with the, when we do it as a camp and not just as the weekly program, they get their meals, they get a tent to come camp out and learn a little bit about the environment as they're doing it as well. It is a great form of teaching children, or youth, I should say, not just children, to do cooperation, working together, how to deal with life in general, but using a band as an example. We have a great deal of results up north when we did it as an individual class. We did 3 reserves for 3 sessions, and we got really good response from that. But like I said, I'd really like to see it closer to home. And that's something that we haven't been able to do because there wasn't funding and stuff down this way. So we wanted to apply and ask you if you would be interested in helping us with the grant.
Thanks, Brenda, and your voice made it. Made it
Thank
through
you.
that.
I know I cut it short so I could talk.
Well, we won't make you answer too many questions then. Thank you, and thank you for the volunteer work you do around the community. I know you're quite involved, so thanks again for that. Council, any questions or comments? Barbara?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Woodbury. Hi, Brenda. Nice to see you. Hope that you'll get over that a lot more quickly. I just had one question. You mentioned that you're moving the program to the spring, but it's a 12-day program. What kind of timing? I mean, I'm sure that's going to come through on the staff report with the grant request, but is that spring break? Is that
no, sorry.
After school finishes? And what is the age of the students that you're targeting?
Okay, sorry, I wasn't clear in my cutting through. We start in the spring getting the process going with picking the students. And then when school is over, then we bring them out. So it was supposed to be this August, but a few of the groups that had it, we had several more COVID out people with COVID, and they were in families of people that were going to be coming. So we decided this year was not a good time to start at this moment. So we will be doing the classes right after school ends next year, but we do start the process of picking the students in the spring. So around, we start in March, and then because sometimes you'll have people that want to come and then they've changed their mind, and we want to make sure the funding is there for each student. And sorry, what was your second question? Oh, the ages. Yes, the ages is 13 to 21.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Martin?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, John. Good morning, Brenda. Just to pick up on what Barb was saying about and what you answered about picking the students, what kind of process? Are you going to advertise in the high school with that age?
Yeah,
or
we
how
are
do you
going to add,
how do you pick them?
okay, what we'll do is we will advertise in the schools, and we will advertise as well on, like, just in the papers, especially because we want to get local people. And then what we do is we go through, because we can only take a limited number, like 20 students at this time, because of the number of people who will be able to help out. And we divide them into smaller groups so they get very individual one-on-one time. And what we do is we will go, it's not by how much you already know, because you could know nothing. It goes by desire. We will be meeting with the students to see how much they really want to do this. Some kids, or youth, I should say, quite often say, oh yeah, I want to join music camp because I want to be a rock star. But when you get to talk to them, you realize they're not really going to put the effort into it. And so we have a group of us that talk to them and talk with their parents to make sure that they really are interested in being in here because they will be working 4 hours a day on music, just music, like type of things alone. Like they'll have 4 1-hour classes, plus then we do other fun stuff around that. So we need to know how serious they are. And then as we narrow it down, then we can pick the students and we will know how much funding we need per student. We do have a few that were interested in just paying for their whole shot on their own just to be there. That's fine, but not everybody has that option, like especially if they're from a large family or, there's different family reasons why they cannot. And so we want to be able to help them out.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other hands up. So thank you, Brenda. And this will go through our grant process, and then we'll be able to make a decision as we do that. So I think this is great because I've kind of followed a bit of what you've done in other places, and I'm really glad that you're looking to do some of this right here. And I think it's an important thing for youth. It reminds me, we were doing interviews for a firefighting program at Humber College, and when we asked one of the potential students why he wanted to be a firefighter, is his first plan was being a rock star, but he's had a guitar for 2 years and still can't play it, so he decided he wanted to be a firefighter. So
he wants excitement.
yeah. So thank you very much. I'll call the question to receive delegation for information. And any further comments? Is anyone opposed? Then that is carried. Thank you. And next, we will move on to delegation from Dufferin County Multicultural Foundation, and it's Althea Alley. Are you there? I thought I saw, oh, there's your name, Althea.
Hi, I'm here. I'm
Oh.
sorry. I was
Nope.
talking away and the mute button, it didn't unmute.
You
How
know
are
what?
you all?
That happens a lot, but welcome, and we'll turn it over to you. We're doing great today.
Thank you very much for having me here today and for giving me the opportunity to share about the Dufferin County Multicultural Foundation. So just a little bit of history about us. I started the very first multicultural event in 2017 in the town of Shelburne at our Shelburne Library. It was, sorry, I apologize. 2017 was started in the schools, and it was planning for the very first multicultural event in 2018, which was held at the library. In 2019, the event doubled in size, and it continued to feature art, poetry, foods, and just various entertainments from not only Shelburne this time, but around Dufferin County. And for us to grow, we had some amazing sponsors to support that growth. 2020, we held our first virtual event, and thanks to the sponsors again and political leaders, we had an amazing turnout, and it was actually further than Dufferin County that we reached, so which was incredibly amazing. And that virtual event showcased cultural art, cultural entertainment. People submitted videos and pictures of their art, and videos of them creating cultural recipes, and pictures of cultural foods and recipes as well. In 2021, we did it a slightly different way, where we wanted to acknowledge all of our silent community leaders who have volunteered within the county of Dufferin for a while, and who, really exemplified what community means. Dufferin-Caledon community. And and it was our first time actually also raising the multicultural flag. And the multicultural flag was to signify that the unity of the different cultures within Dufferin-Caledon. 2022, is a significant year for us. We actually just became a nonprofit in February, and this is to further promote diversity, inclusion, and equity for all cultures. And our name is formally known now as the Dufferin County Multicultural Foundation. In June, we had our first in-person or back to in-person multicultural event, which was incredibly successful. It was actually one of the largest ones we've ever had, with an amazing turnout. We worked in partnership with the Museum of Dufferin yet again, and we were, there we had the Sikh community, the Muslim community, Scottish, Irish, Caribbean, South Asian, African culture, the indigenous culture, and there were actually many more that we had, the Ukraine, Afghanistan, many more. And the artwork that was submitted for the event was from artists that were all across Ontario who had heard about the multicultural event and wanted to submit cultural art, which was incredibly amazing. We also flew the flag of the Unity and Diversity flag. We raised it again. And one other thing that I'm missing, and I apologize, in 2020, Warden White proclaimed June 27th as a Multicultural Day here in Dufferin County as well. And in 2021, it was proclaimed, and again in 2022, it was proclaimed in Dufferin County and the various different townships of Dufferin County as well. So my request from this council here is a donation of $250, and if we can exchange logos on our respective websites to continue the work of DEI, and we're more than happy to work. If you have a DEI committee in place, we're more than happy to work with the town and the DEI committee, and we are happy to share any events that you have, recruitment opportunities that you have, and we are asking the same. We have different community events that happen throughout the year, and they're really workshops about different cultures, and it's open to the public. It's free to the public as well. We absorb those costs through our donations. Usually I would also be asking if you'd be a participant in the multicultural event, but I'm hoping that I can come back next year with the event being planned next year to ask for that and to ask for the multicultural flag, the Unity and Diversity flag, to be flown next year as well. Is there any questions that I can answer?
Well, that's great, and thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions or comments from council? I'm not seeing it. Oh, Barbara.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury, and through you, welcome Althea,
Yes.
Or is it Alicia?
No, Althea.
Okay, thank you. We normally get the application and presentation in advance for us to consider and understand what your ask is. So my question to the clerk, this presentation will be included in an addendum agenda, because we haven't actually received it or put it on the table.
Yes, it will be included following the meeting.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to let you know, Althea, is that we do have a donations grants fund application process, and there is a form to complete and forward to our treasurer.
Okay,
which I would encourage you to go through that process. And also, have you been in touch with Joan John of the Junction Community Initiatives here in Dundas?
I don't believe so, no.
because I know that she is currently working on diversity and inclusion and programs, and also trying to arrange a multicultural event. And I think putting the two of you together to have a conversation would be a good first step. It's just my suggestion, and happy to reach out to you if you want, and I can get you that information. Thank you, Mayor Woodbury.
Absolutely, that would be great.
Mayor Woodbury, you're muted.
I did that on purpose. Okay, maybe not. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any then.
Yeah, I have a question, John.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Sorry.
We can go back to full screen now, and then we can see a little easier the people asking questions. Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks, John. And it's not so much a question, Althea. I just wanted to congratulate you on the work you've done and the success you've had. It's very apparent that these types of events are very important to the community and well received. And I just wanted to congratulate you on the work that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and don't hesitate coming back with in the new year with the details for the new council on things that are going on.
I will definitely do that.
Good. Well, thank you very much. With not seeing any other questions, I'll call a question. Is anyone opposed to the motion of receiving this for information?
Point of order. Do we even have a mover and seconder?
Yeah, I thought I said Michael and Brian put it on the floor before the delegation. Yep.
Oh, thank you.
So is was anyone opposed? So that is carried. So again, thank you very much for sharing that information. And if you go through the process, this is something that, well, I can't guarantee anything, but this would be something that I believe the township and council would look at very favorably for a donation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have up a motion moved by Martin, seconded by Jason, to adopt the minutes of the August 3rd meeting and closed session. Any discussion on that? Okay, not seeing any. Is anyone opposed to that motion? That would be carried. Next, we have Kayla's motions. 9.1.1, the CAO hiring, moved by Brian, seconded by Jason. And that's that we receive the report for information that we disband the CAO hiring committee and that we announce the new chief administrative officer. Kayla, would you like to add anything to your report?
Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I don't have great connection right now, so I can't use my camera. Mayor Woodbury, I think that I don't have much to add to this, but I think you have the announcement.
Yes, I'm just trying to pull something up here. And as usual on how things are going for me this week. We had the interviews and over a process, and we could easily say we were overwhelmed by the number of applications that came in and the quality of applications that came in. It was quite the process. We had a couple of internal staff that applied, and they did very favorably. But at this point, we're very pleased for myself and the members of council to congratulate Lindsay Edwards Tucker on the appointment of Chief Administrative Officer beginning this fall. She comes to Southgate with over 14 years of municipal experience in both upper and lower tiers, and will be leaving her position of Manager of Strategic Initiatives at the Region of Peel to join us in the fall. She has proven skills in building high-performing teams and providing strong leadership. Lindsay's experienced community growth firsthand and gained extensive knowledge and understanding of the growth and impacts during her time at the town of New Tecumseh. And we welcome the experience as we continue to see growth in our community. Lindsay holds a master's degree in environmental studies, urban planning from York University, as well as a Bachelor of Arts honors degree in sociology from Queen's University. So on behalf of Southgate Council, I want to welcome Lindsay Edwards Tucker to the Township of Southgate team. Lindsay's shown great leadership in her past experience, and we're excited to work with her to continue the ongoing initiatives and to help create new ones. She'll be starting with the Township October 3rd, and there'll be an overlap with our current CAO, which will allow time for an exchange of knowledge and a building of some of the relationships and meeting people. So I think this is a real positive step. You know, it's tough when we're in the situation of feeling very happy for our current CEO, Dave Milner, retiring. It's always nice to see someone retire and looking forward to the retirement. But it's the flip side is, man, I'm gonna miss you. Well, I'm not gonna miss you as much because I'm not gonna be here, but some of the others that will be here, we're really gonna miss you, Dave. So it's that, you know, double-sided coin. We're really excited about Lindsay coming in, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the wonderful job that Dave's done over an extended period of time. And so there's only one issue I think I have, and that's we already have a Lindsay, but the new one has an A in her name, not an E. So I think I'll leave it to you two to work out. So that's our new CAO starting this fall. So we're really looking forward to that. And I guess the motion was to receive that. Oh, I read out the motion before. Any comments? Barbara?
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. And I just wonder, with regard to process, would it be appropriate, although we are disbanding the hiring committee, would it be appropriate for council to meet with the, to introduce a clause and that a council meeting be arranged to meet with the current CAO to firm up the transition timelines and milestones?
Well, I guess I'll answer that one two ways. I would think that, yes, that motion would be in order. I know that I've sat down with Dave, and he does have quite a list of things, how the transition would go, and so that things don't get missed. But also from talking to Lindsay, she has some of her ideas. So I think sitting down with either one of them kind of wouldn't, we need the two for something to gel. So I don't know. I think that's already under control. But like I say, it is a valid motion. So that's up to you if you'd like to make that amendment.
I would like to propose that we add that clause. I know that you have spent a great deal of time meeting with the CAO, but we haven't actually documented a timeline, and it would be great to see and understand how that transition will play out. I agree that once Lindsay with an A starts, that would be an important process as well. So I would like to propose that we add a clause that council meet with the current CAO to firm up, to best understand and firm up transitions and milestones.
Okay.
Before October 3rd.
Do we have a seconder for that? Jason, second that? Okay, so discussion. Brian.
Thank you, John. And I agree that council needs to understand what the process is going to be going forward. But I wonder, would it be more appropriate to allow staff to meet with the new CAO and report back to council on how that transition is going to happen? Would that be a better way to allow staff to craft that transition, so to speak? My concern is that I don't want council to get too much down into the weeds, as I appreciate the movers' sentiment. Absolutely, council needs to understand, indeed the community needs to understand how the transition is going to unfold. But I think I'd feel better if staff was given an opportunity to craft that and make a recommendation, or at least come back to council with a report on how that's going to unfold in the next few weeks.
Okay, thank you. Jason?
Well, yeah, I kind of like Barb's motion. I'm wondering if Lindsay with an A shouldn't be involved in the meeting as well, if we're going to have one, just to, just so we know, like Barb said, all the moving parts on everybody's side. Just an opinion.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? I have some mixed emotion about this. I think as just a general outline, knowing kind of the transition is good. I don't know if we need it beforehand, or like I said, I think it's more of a moving target as things go. And the other thing is how detailed or how generalized it should be. We've got two CAOs that are going to be exchanging the valid information and meeting with staff and other interest groups. And I know we should have report back on it, but I'm really wondering myself whether we need a motion for this, because I think this is something that's just like a normal staff report that's going to be a ongoing thing. So that's just my opinion. Barb?
Through you, Mayor Woodbury, I know that Dave Milner had his hand up. I just wanted to clarify before that, is that I'm just wondering, or my goal is to best understand from a council perspective and a staff perspective, we're going to have two CAOs. Who does staff report to and when? Who has signing authority and when? Because, obviously a new CAO is going to want to start taking on those responsibilities. And I think it's important for the current CAO to outline what his thoughts are, and we agree on what makes sense based on the very lengthy transition period. That was my goal and my intent. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Dave, did you have something?
Dave had his hand up. Mayor Woodbury, Dave had his hand up earlier.
Yes, I'm trying to ask him now. Dave, would you like to comment?
Yeah, just to report a bit on that. I've met with the mayor on that very issue. We've got a multiple page document that kind of goes through a bunch of steps, like obviously meeting our staff and I mean every staff member, touring facilities. It just kind of goes on and on, you know, how we deal with department heads, and reviewing each department as a presentation by each member of our department head team with the new CAO. I have a file on my desk that everything we do now, between now and October 3rd, we're throwing something in there to say, make sure we deal with this issue with the new CAO and get them up to speed. From a transition plan, it seems kind of natural, but this is only my thinking. And we didn't chat lengthy at this with the mayor, but we finished off to the end of November with this present term. And I think that gives us some time to transition and so on. And as of December 1st, the new CAO would take over, and I would kind of be in the background supporting that. I'd be taking vacation in the later part of December anyway. So, but I mean, even during that time, day or night, I mean, my phone's on and we can talk. But that's kind of a high level of what we're doing. You know, community action plan review, what the things are. We at the conference we talked to the previous community action plan person. That's something we have to review in 2023 to see about, you know, but we have to discuss those things, and maybe the new CAO will want to take on the community action plan review process, or maybe we'll want to tender it. So those are the kind of discussions. That's just one little example of many things that's in that file.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Jason, and then, or Lindsay, you've got a comment, and then Jason.
Jason can go ahead. I mean, Mayor Woodbury, it's just the way it's worded that to arrange a meeting like that would have to be an open meeting of council anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if more what Brian was saying, if we direct the CAO just to prepare and bring it back to council rather than us set up a meeting. Like, we still have the 3 meetings left in this term of scheduled meetings anyway. So if we maybe just change the wording, it would have to be to an open council meeting anyway.
Yeah, okay. And so that's why I was saying more of a staff report type thing. And okay, Barb, you had something. Oh, Jason first and then Barb.
Oh yeah, I don't know which way is best to do it. I appreciate what Dave had to say and how you and Dave have had conversations, John. I just you know, I've been asked a few questions about the new CAO or what's going to happen to, and just so the council's up to date. You know, I want to be transparent. That's my main thing with people, and just so we have the information, whatever way we get it. That's all I'm worried about.
Yeah, agreed. Barb.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury, and thank you, Dave. That makes a lot of sense. Lindsay, great suggestion. I didn't mean a special meeting of council for sure, but perhaps the wording could be, and that staff report back on whatever that is. Do you have something in mind, Lindsay, with an E?
I just changed it up to just say that council direct the current CAO to report to council before October 3rd, 2022 regarding the transition timelines and milestones with the new CAO.
That would be awesome, because I agree with Jason, Mayor Woodbury, is that you've had great conversations with the CAO, but we haven't actually seen anything, and it might help understand it better. Thank you.
Yep, okay. So you moved that amendment. I think, Jason, you seconded it. So are you fine, both of you are fine with that, the way Lindsay's worded that? Okay, okay, good. Any further discussion, Dave?
Yeah, it's just to put some definition behind it. It seems so finite that there's 3 council meetings left in this term, but what I'll commit to, just for the discussion and the decision, is I'll bring what I've got together now as a framework, and we can critique it over the next 3 meetings and, you know, come up with a final kind of what council's happy with as far as a transition plan, and that being multi meetings and meeting people and so on. We'll work on it over the next 3 council meetings to follow.
Thank you. Okay, not seeing any other hands up. I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to this amendment? Seeing none, that is carried. So now we can go back to the amended motion. Any comments on the amended motion? Okay, I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to the amended motion? And that is carried. Good, thank you. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't thank Kayla for all her work on all of that. Next, we have motion moved by Barbara, seconded by Martin, and that's the council remuneration policy. Anything you wanted to add to that, Kayla?
Yes, thank you. There was 2 policies that were updated as a result of the direction to update council remuneration. So that was policy 21, and then policy 2 is our conference and education policy, and that needed to be updated as well, just as a result. And as we were kind of going through those policies, we made some cleanup kind of items. The only major change in the conference one that to note would be the meal allowance. While I was doing the research on the council remuneration, it came to my attention that most places are paying $75 for a meal allowance per day, and we're doing $65. So it's just staff's recommendation that we update that as well. In addition to that, I had some feedback from council that may be some friendly amendments just on some wording, updating and formatting. So we've made those changes, but they're not on the copy that's on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, it gets pretty silly where some of these conferences are, where they're charging. You go down to some of the coffee shops and you're paying $6-7 for a coffee. It gets a little silly, especially for someone that drinks 1 or 2 a day like I do. Luckily, most of the conferences have that supplied. Any questions or comments on the report? Barbara?
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury, and through you to Kayla. I thank you for the time you took to go through some of the policy. And further to our discussion, it was suggested I ask the question to council. In policy number 2, section C, it talks about the Committee of Adjustment Conference, the OCA conference, being one of the 3 conferences a member can attend. It would count against your council, your 3 conferences a council member can attend. Although we aren't councillors or council members when we sit on the Committee of Adjustment. I just wondered, and I don't disagree with that. I just wondered though, Police Services Board also has a conference. Should that be stated there that it counts as one of the 3 conferences? If we're going to state the Committee of Adjustment counts as one, Police Services Board should also count as one. They both have their own budget.
I don't know who wants to take that, Kayla or Lindsay. Lindsay, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Woodbury. Yeah, Councillor DeBreen, we've always, I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes the details get fuzzy after so long, but I believe we've always, if someone wants to attend the Police Service Board conference, that has counted towards their 3 in the past. I think it's kind of an unwritten rule, but someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what we've done as far as I've been here, so I don't see why we couldn't note that in the policy along with the Committee of Adjustment conference.
Thank you. I just think that if we're going to state Committee of Adjustment, that we should make it clear for future council members. It just helps them understand what the expectation is. So I would like to move a friendly amendment for policy number 2. Do we do that when we get to the bylaw stage?
We can just, through you to Councillor DeBreen, we can just approve the bylaw as amended, and I'll make sure that's included.
Okay, if that is council's wish.
Yeah, it's a friendly amendment.
Yeah. Does anyone have a problem with that? Okay. Any other comments?
Mayor Woodbury?
Yeah.
I did have another one. I just wondered if Kayla could explain. She has indicated in her report that the meal allowance will affect the 2022 budget because the council remuneration comes into effect with the new term of council. I'm not sure how many conferences are still outstanding between November 21st and the end of the year. But in order for it not to affect the 2022 budget, could we not allow that increase to begin January 1st? I know the policy is coming into effect with the new term of council, though. It kind of complicates it a bit.
Kayla, you have any, or Lindsay?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, Kayla's coming on. I'll let Kayla speak to that.
Okay. Kayla?
Thanks. I'm not sure. I would think that it has minimal impact, and the thinking behind that was more just for consistency for the new council term, that it's all one, just because it is really a month. There's not very many meetings, but if council wishes to have it in effect January 1st, then that's okay. The meal allowance is separate. I think we would have to leave the policy as $65 and then update it January 1st in order to follow policy properly. So if that's the way we want to do it, that's okay. I just need that direction.
Honestly, I don't think it's going to have a great impact, but I thought I would bring it up, and chances are it's a $10 difference. How many people are going to conferences between November 21st and the end of the year? It's probably unlikely. And just one final one, Mayor Woodbury.
Yeah, just a second. Lindsay's wanted to comment on that as well first.
No, I was just through you, Mayor Woodbury, just going off of what Councillor Dobreen said. The last conference we have on the books is the Committee of Adjustment, which is late September, I believe. So I don't believe there will be any impact.
Okay, great. Barbara?
And I guess one last thing, the policy states that only the items that are being expensed or receiving remuneration are to be included on the expense reports. But there are a number of webinars and workshops that council members attend on their own time that bring value and show to the community, for those who care to look at our expense reports, that we are fulfilling our elected duties. The other thing too is that there is a board. Whomever is sitting on the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority is expected to attend meetings, but it isn't expensed through the township. It is remunerated directly from the SVCA. And I think it's important that whomever is sitting on that board going forward shows that they are actually attending those meetings. So I'm wondering if through staff, the expense report could have a section of other meetings not remunerated or not expensed, or other meetings attended, that to separate it from what is being compensated and what is more like a timesheet. And that would be, a question to staff as to whether or not they think that's of value.
Kayla?
Yes, so we had this discussion, so staff have actually been working on that and have come up with what we think is a good solution, where we've blocked out a certain section of the expense statements where ineligible meetings or events can be listed for that purpose. So we could change, if it's okay with everybody, we could make a friendly amendment just to say, like, in the expense section of the expense statements or something like that.
Okay.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yep, go ahead. Yep.
I think if staff are already working on it and they thought it was worthy to investigate, I don't know that we need an amendment.
No, I agree.
Thank you very much.
And I think staff should also look at if with that if council wants to put the items that they're not compensated for onto the sheets, you should also look at the volume. Like, I know mine most months would be 4 pages if I put the stuff in. So, you know, my leaning, and I'll leave this to staff, my leaning is more if people wanted to submit a meeting record or something like that, because the expense report is the same one similar ones, same format staff uses and things like that. And I could see where it would be cleaner with just the expenses on it. So whichever way, it doesn't matter to me. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll call a question. Is anyone opposed to the motion? And that is carried. Next, we have the bylaw for the conference education and training policies, moved by Michael, seconded by Jim. Any comments or questions on the bylaw itself? Barbara?
Just to clarify, that would be as amended if, yes, Lindsay's nodding. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, not seeing any other comments. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote for bylaw 2022-115 to adopt policy number 2, conference education and training with the friendly amendments. Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen?
In favor?
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson? Councillor Shearson? Oh, you're giving me the thumbs up. I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah, he's having audio
Mayor?
problems.
Oh, Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Okay, and don't go far because we got another one. Moved by Jason and seconded by Michael, and that's the council member compensation expenses and meeting claims policy. Any discussion on that bylaw? Okay, I'll call the question then. Lindsay, can you ask everybody?
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote called for bylaw 2022-114 to adopt the council compensation policy with the friendly amendments. Councillor Dobreen?
In favor?
Councillor Shearson is gonna nod again. Yes. Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
Yes. Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Thank you. And we have one more from Kayla, and that's the finance staff update, moved by Martin, seconded by Barbara. Kayla, anything you'd like to say about this one?
I think the report is fairly self-explanatory. We're hoping to do an internal posting first just to see if there is interest internally in the position that has opened up before we go internal, external.
Okay, that is great. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Oops. Barbara?
I just wanted to say congratulations, and it's great that we can have opportunities for our current employees to take on new and additional responsibilities. So yeah, it's great.
Yep, that's we've got quite the group that's assembled as staff, and yeah, I agree. It is really good to see them step up. Any other questions or comments? Okay, is there anyone opposed to this motion? And that is carried. So thank you, Kayla. Next, we'll move on to Kevin's report, moved by Martin, seconded by Jim. And that's the internal external recruitment for season facility operator. Kevin, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, just my apologies. I'm in Montreal on a ball field at my daughter's Canadian Championship, so there might be some background noise here. But no, Ethan's going on maternity or parental leave for us, so we're going to need to fill that position anyways. And we need some support for his position, and we need to fill the hours. That was vacated when Ethan went to almost full-time programming, so it's a necessary position for the rec department.
Okay, thanks, Kevin, and I hope your daughter does well in the tournament. Any questions or comments? Martin?
Just to, excuse me, just to comment with the success that Ethan has had with all the programs and what have you, it would be very remiss not to have a position where to fill his spot and also to help in the fact that, as in the report states, you don't want to take away someone from rec to fill in that spot. If you're going to have the programs, we need the people to run them. So I think it's a great idea, basically. I'm all for it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to this motion? Okay, well, that is carried. And Kevin, get back to what you're doing and enjoy Montreal.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye. Okay. Next up, we have a report from Liam, moved by Michael and seconded by Martin, and that's the external audit services. Liam, did you want to add anything to your report? And good morning.
Good morning. Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify that we've received 2 submissions, one from KPMG and one BDO, our existing auditors. As per the evaluation template, the key difference between the 2 bids, I would say, is timing and price. So the first evaluation criteria, BDO wouldn't be able to complete the audit until like July, August, and have statements until September, whereas KPMG is able to meet our requirements of March, April, and statements in May, as we are legislatively required to file statements by the end of May of each year. And then considering price, KPMG was $39,530 and BDO was $63,750. So KPMG came out higher in the ranking matrix.
Okay, thank you very much. And I know one of the things that I've heard over the years, it's can be pretty healthy at times to change auditors, to have things looked at from a different angle. Even though BDO has been good to us, I think, good to work with. So any other questions or comments? Barbara, then Martin.
And Brian.
Sorry.
Barbara, Barbara, then Martin.
Thank you. And I think, Brian, I think that's what Martin said. Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. And just through you to Liam, just to clarify a couple of questions that have been posed recently. This does not come into effect until next year for the 2022 audit, which occurs in 2023.
Yeah, go ahead, Liam.
So yeah, so it's for the 2022 fiscal year. So the interim audit work and planning for the 2022 year will actually probably begin in November of this year. So whereas in the 2021 audit is anticipated to complete in September of 2022, well, once we get the statements to council.
Thank you. And there's a significant difference in cost and hours. Is that a firm? The KPMG doesn't come back to us and say, well, it's going to take us longer now?
Go ahead.
So I acknowledge that KPMG's bid is based on a completely clean set of records provided to them with no problems and no accounting issues. So I anticipate maybe KPMG's actual bill might be slightly higher, but though I can't see it being nearly as high as BDO has indicated, as staff has in each year created more schedules internally and given them more records to review. Can we improve that? Yes. Though I think BDO is probably a little higher than I would have expected.
Well, thank you. And certainly BDO has done a great job for the Township of Southgate currently and in the past, but it was due to be reviewed. So thank you, Liam, for bringing that forward.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Liam.
I just want to comment. I have no issues with BDO's service and their audit. It just it's coming down to timing and price.
Yep. No, it's yeah, absolutely. And you know, we opened it up to tenders to see what was out there, so that's good. Martin, and then Brian, did you have something? Okay, so Martin and then Brian.
Yeah, thank you, John. Good morning, Liam. You mentioned the end of May. What I should know this maybe. What is the fiscal year for the township? Is it December to December, and that 5 months is your maximum time legislated? So, you have to have it in.
Fiscal year of the township is December 31st, and we are required to file the FIR by May 31st.
Okay.
So we like to have the financial statements audited complete so that the FIR filing matches the financial statements.
Okay. And I think you answered the question that I had when Barb mentioned it. The difference in the hours, they're all bound by their code of ethics and work ethics. So we're not going to be losing any service with the, like why would there be 200 hours difference? That just kind of floored me when I read it. So what are we looking at there?
I can only offer my opinion is that working remotely and their staffing issues has caused some challenges for them, which is why I said I will not profess that I will provide a completely clean set of everything to the auditor, but I think the BDO's audit approach maybe requires more testings than KPMG's, but that's all I can say.
Okay, and just to follow up then, by testing, what do you mean there? I'm not a treasurer or an accountant.
The CPA organization determines certain audit procedures, and each firm interprets that based on and creates a program on how they meet the requirements in order to issue a clean audit opinion. And so each firm will have a different approach in doing that.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Great, thank you. Brian.
Thank you, John. Martin, or Liam, good morning. Just wondering, how many staff does the auditor typically assign to our audit? And do you anticipate any differences in that respect between what BDO traditionally has done and what KPMG is proposing to provide?
Well, pre-COVID, on site, they usually sent 3 staff for about 2 weeks and got the audit done. So now that we've gone remote audit, I really only have contact with 1 other staff members. I know other staff members are working on the file, but I have no idea how many of those people, how many people are working on it.
Okay, thank you.
Barbara?
Thank you. 2 questions to follow up on Brian Milne's question. Is remote audit creating more work for our staff in that you have to pull the files for them and scan them and send them to them?
And I would say, yes, it is causing more time, effort for us to find and scan and send the records to them. And then for them to then send up a follow-up inquiry and then us to find that piece again. So it was much more efficient being on site. However, given the circumstances that we were in, we really had no choice but to go to a remote audit.
And so KPMG, the plan is that it would be an on-site audit, barring any extension of pandemic-related restrictions?
Yes, that's my expectation, that the base field work would be done here for a week or two on site. And it maybe not be as long on site as it has been in pre-COVID days, but I would definitely want them near on site so they can pull out the file and see it, as opposed to us finding the file, scanning it to them, and then them looking at it and asking for another one.
And just one follow-up, Mayor Woodbury, with regard to the financial information report that you are required to file to the province, that also, or correct me if I'm wrong, the FIR not filing it could create or disqualify us for certain funding. And I'm just wondering what exemption or what forgiveness Southgate will have, since BDO will not be presenting the final financial statements until September.
So based on past experience, they, yes, it has financial, will stop being provided grants. And so if we don't file by the end of September, usually they don't issue the October OMP payment or OMP payment, or they hold it until we file the FIR.
So it's critical that we get our financial statements completed by the end of May, and so that we can file those FIRs in a timely fashion. Otherwise, we are delayed in getting some or all of the grant funding. Thank you very much for that, Liam.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I will call the question then. Is anyone opposed to this motion? And that is carried. What I think we'll do is Jim's reports are next. We've got two of them, and we're almost 10:15. So let's do Jim's report and then take a short break, and then we'll get back with Dave's stuff. So the next one is moved by Jason and seconded by Barb, and it's the four-way stop, and that's I believe Hagan Street and the rail crossing. Good morning, Jim. Anything you'd like to add?
Good morning, good people. I think I just take any questions from the report. It's pretty basic.
Okay, and I see that there's at least one question. Go ahead, Michael.
Morning, Jim. Yeah, just kind of wondering, are we going to trim back the trees and open it up a little bit more coming up to the sign, leading up to it? Because I know in the wintertime we get, the snowmobiles flying up there, and then we also get the four-wheelers flying up there too. I'm just kind of wondering if we can just clear it and make sure that we got a stop sign ahead showing up, because when they get flying up there, sometimes I don't know if the stop sign will be too soon, I think.
Okay, Jim. Yep.
Yeah, so there is some budget this year, 50,000 to do some more improvements on that section of road. The delay is we're waiting on the GRCA permit to extend the culverts out on each end and a bit of widening. At this point, it'll stay gravel, but look for maybe future budgets for paving and maybe sidewalk installation for the future, but that is not proposed for this time. But yeah, we'll be looking at some of that stuff as we open and put the stop signs in. So.
Okay, Brian. Oh, and then we'll go back to Michael. So Brian, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, John. Morning, Jim. I'm just wondering, was the county consulted on placement of the sign on the trail?
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, basically, they turned that part over to us in a survey. I have email confirmation that we are the authority over that piece of part one of that survey. So they have no questions on our concerns of why we're implementing this. So
Very good.
the actual stop signs installed currently on the trail are through the Dufferin Gray ATV clubs and the snowmobile trails. So we will be putting regulatory size stop signs up at those places instead of the smaller versions, which the trails have.
Most excellent. Thank you.
Okay, back to Michael.
As just to follow up on Jim was saying about the delay on waiting for the culvert extension there. Can we use DC charges to pave that road now because it's a going into the new area there?
Go ahead.
I don't believe so because it wasn't identified previously in the DC components. I could be corrected if Dave has anything to add.
Well, let's see. Yep, go ahead, Dave.
I just got to get unmuted here. Sorry. There could be, we'll have to check with Watson's, but there could be a way under that kind of bulk DC for road upgrades that we've got in there. It hasn't been identified specifically because it's such a small project, but we can take a look at whether there's a bulk amount for improvements, whether we make the asphalt thicker or apply something that wasn't there before. So that could be a consideration.
Okay, and Michael?
Yeah, just to follow up then, the sidewalk and everything will be carried through to the Rose Lane then?
Jim?
We have not looked at finalizing that project that way. That'll be future considerations. So it's not in the works totally just yet, but it's for consideration in the future.
Okay, thank you. Dave?
Yeah, and I'd add to that I'm not sure that the dimension of build of that road allowance that we have would allow a sidewalk, but Jim and I have talked about, paving enough width to the road to actually, put a good hard yellow stripe for bicycle and walking traffic. And that has to be designed, whether that's possible.
Okay. Any other, Michael?
Again, I think if we're talking a public school here and we're designing traffic to divert off of Victoria Street to head to the public school, we need to make sure it is safe, a sidewalk, not a road, because we know what's going to happen. People are going to park all over the road picking up their children. So I think when we design this, we need to make sure we design it wide enough that we can get a sidewalk. I mean, we got a seniors building right there, so we need to get them out and walking on the sidewalk, not out on the side of the road. I don't think that's a good fit. So I think we need to make sure we're looking at the planning to make this.
Okay, Jim, and then I'll go to Martin.
Yeah, this road access is not to divert traffic down from Victoria Street to school. The purpose of this road is to have a secondary access entrance point for Block 75 apartments. Due to if something happens on Rose Lane and you have to shut it down, you need a way to get in and out of Block 75, and currently there is no way. So this is not designed to take school traffic that way. I get you and understand your point, but that's not the reasoning for having this piece of road open.
Okay, thank you. Martin?
I'm okay, John. My answer, my question was answered. Thank you very much. Thank you.
See how good staff is, or answering questions before you ask them? Okay, maybe someone else asked it, but that's okay. Any other questions? Jim?
Jim, I've noticed lately that there's a number of stop signs, while we're on the matter of the stop signs, that are not legal. Stop sign has to be 6 feet to 9 feet from a horizontal line on the crown of the road to the bottom of the sign. You want to get some of your guys to go out there and check signs for legality. There is quite a number that are not legal.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any. And I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to the motion? That is carried. And next we have the bylaw for that, moved by Martin, seconded by Jim. Any discussion on the bylaw? Okay, Lindsay, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote called for bylaw 2022-112, the stop sign approval at Hagan Street East. Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen?
In favor?
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Okay. I have just after 20 after. What do you say we take a break and come back at 10:30? Is that too long, or is that just about right? Okay. So 10:30 we'll come back. Thanks, everyone. No, I got 10:30. Let's see who comes back. No, we definitely got quorum. So let's move back into call the meeting back to order, and we'll start with Dave's report, 9.5.1, and that's Randhar Investments, Wilder Lake Phase 1 and 2, moved by Barbara, seconded by Michael, and I see Brian's hand up. So go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry to interrupt. I think you missed the pecuniary interest request at the start of the meeting, but I wanted to, didn't he? Okay, I wasn't paying attention, I guess, at that point, but I wanted to declare pecuniary interest in this report, and I think the next one, if it's dealing with the same thing. Yes,
Yeah,
the nature of the matter of the interest is that the developer is a family member, so I will not be participating in the discussion or the vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's where we are. Dave, go ahead. And Brian has shut off his camera, so he'll come back.
Okay, through the chair, this report is very similar to what we brought forward last time, with a few changes that we've indicated in the report. The main one being that they felt it was better to seek approval for phase 1 and phase 2, and that will be addressed through either a holding provision or other means to hold off on the phase 2 development until phase 1 is substantially completed, because they're looking at likely a 2, 3, 4 year development time on phase 2. Other than that, I'll take questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Barbara, then Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Through you to Dave. Just a couple of questions with regard to the delegation this morning and the suggestion that a diagram on night sky and do's and don'ts, would that be possible to include such a diagram?
As far as the diagram, I'm not sure that this is not the place for it. Really, dark sky compliance requirements already in the zoning. And so, we do need lighting for public safety, but that lighting has to be definitely dark sky compliant by the zoning. There's been design, there's been studies in relation to, consultants doing that work. The other thing that was brought up in some of the information was, control on outside lighting of homes, like closing drapes. That's something we can't legislate, whether homeowners close their blinds on their windows at night or not. So anyway, I hope that answers that question.
Thank you. I do have, sure.
What was that, Barbara?
No, I didn't want to interrupt. Dave was suggesting that maybe Clinton had something to add.
Okay, let's see. Welcome, Clint.
Nothing substantial to add other than I take the dark sky compliance seriously. That's why it's in the zoning bylaw to begin with when we approved it. As Dave mentioned, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, we don't regulate inside people's homes. What they do in there is their business. But we can, certainly the biggest piece about any
Oh, we lost him.
No, he's just thinking.
All right. Well,
Okay.
if I may, Mayor Woodbury, I'll just add a couple of things. On Schedule K, Dave, on page 78, it refers to Gray Sabo Conservation. But I think that is Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. Do we have Dave with us as well? Or am I even speaking?
Yep.
Oh, so it's not me.
I think
Okay,
it's the
so
office.
it's not me.
Rose.
Yep.
I think so. Okay. And well, hopefully they can hear. And then on page 92 and 93, just so that before the bylaw gets passed, if staff can notice that on my screen anyway, the T in, there's a T in both the poison ivy page and the tick page. The T's have been replaced with question marks. So if we're, issuing a bylaw.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we had a blip that kicked everybody out of everywhere, and we're just waiting to make sure we can get council all back and staff that need to be here, and give the public a minute, and then we'll get going again. There's Jim back.
We can blame that on Clint. He talked.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, us in the office should turn our camera off. I wonder if that's.
We're on.
I think probably the system at in Hopeville just was in shock with that many people back in the office on on camera.
That's
Okay.
it. I'm keeping my reports even shorter now.
Okay.
We don't. Oh, there's Jason. I was just gonna say we don't have Jason, but he's
Yeah.
coming in here now.
Yeah. So I think once we have Jason in, that's us. So I think we'll get started again.
Yeah, just note in the minutes the timing of that due to electronic failure or something. We've never had that, so that was interesting.
Yep. Well, we must all be getting a bit better with these computer things because it looks like most of us came back. So that's good.
There you go.
So that was a computer failure, and I guess so we're back. And Barb, if you can just kind of summarize your questions again for Clint or Dave.
I will. Thank you. And thank you, Clinton. I think anything that we can do to help, I mean, obviously we can't enforce what's inside someone's home or how they manage their blinds and curtains. Certainly diagrams are always helpful, but on Schedule K, on page 78, it refers to Gray Sabo Conservation Authority. And Wilder Lake is within the Saugeen Valley watershed. I just thought I'd make mention of that. And on page 92 and 93, it speaks to poison ivy and it speaks to ticks, but the T's in those two documents have been replaced with question marks. Now that could just be on my document in eScribe and not on the official bylaw, but I just wanted to make mention of that to staff. That's what I viewed, just to make sure that it's all in order. Thank you, Mayor Woodbury.
Okay.
Can I indulge to get that information again, please? Can we indulge to get that information again, the specific page number in the report, K, sex schedule
Certainly.
K?
Yeah.
It's my page 78 in the bylaw, but that's actually in the bylaw.
I noticed them, Dave. It was just in conversion. I'll fix them in the final version.
Okay. Yeah. But I just, if you can get those changes, Lindsay, to me, because I'll have those changed in the actual report by the consultant. We found some other things that need to be changed earlier, so we want that report to be accurate for the rest.
Okay, good.
So,
yeah, go ahead, Barb.
just in follow-up to that then, Dave, you just mentioned that there were some other things in the report that needed to be changed. Should we be reading this a first and second time and then pass it at the next meeting when we do have the final version of the bylaw?
Well,
Or do you
I
think
really,
it's mostly housekeeping?
those items are housekeeping because this is a very positive document going forward, and it captures, those major things about fertilizing and chemical use and, trees and shoreline prevention. All the core stuff that we've asked for is in here and that we received from public comments. So I think those housekeeping things are rather minor in nature and wouldn't reflect any quantitative changes to the intent of the report.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. And then we had Martin.
You can hear me? Yep.
I can hear you.
Great. Yeah, just the dark sky. Barb mentioned it, in the section K. It's a very important aspect, especially when you look at the environment studies that were done and the visual impact studies and the I guess the SAR report on the lake. I don't know how you can really define anything more than dark sky. A lot of people don't even know what that is in the general public, I think. The only question I have is, would all the Clinton, would all the or Dave, all the streetlights, would they be dark sky? Because as you say, you can't dictate to what people have on their own property, but would that be all in the infrastructure going in? Would that be dark sky?
Jim? Go ahead, Jim.
I'll defer to Clint on that. Just it's open design from a dark sky compliance standard. I think it's
Jim actually has.
Yeah, Jim Ellis has his hand for this.
Yep.
So go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so the municipal servicing standards were updated in June, include all dark sky compliance component in that. So municipal street lighting, yes, will have to meet the 3000 K as previously converted throughout the township. So again, developers have to use that municipal servicing standard for our right of ways and all the work done on the roadway. And that is already included in those documents. So they have to follow those.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That is great. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Okay. I'll call for the vote then. Is anyone opposed to this motion? Seeing none, that is carried. And we have a motion, the bylaw to go with it, moved by Jim and seconded by Jason. Any comments on the bylaw? Barbara?
Sorry, I was transferring over to the telephone link in order for audio, Mayor Woodbury. And while I don't have any objection, I did want to just clarify that while we are actually through this subdivision agreement requiring specific lighting on property as part of the subdivision agreement, as part of the external lighting we can control. That is my understanding. It's what we cannot control what people do within their own homes. If Jim could just clarify that, please, or Clinton.
Or Dave.
Maybe
I can answer that.
Okay, Clint can answer. Yeah.
Okay, so the zoning controls essentially what happens, the use of the land and what happens outside. It does request that any installed lighting be dark sky compliant lighting. However, I will say that to really give this teeth, we need to expand that in future through other things and other tools, which that don't just apply to this subdivision, but I'll get into that at another meeting when I bring forward another report on the matter. But in this situation specifically, we are controlling what happens outside as best we can with requiring the builder to install dark sky compliant lighting and moving forward in that respect. If somebody goes and changes those lightings, that's a little different, but that's what the subdivision agreement is doing, is requiring the builder to follow those rules.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Dave?
Any education or any tool that we can give to residents in general are just recommendations. Understood. Thank you.
Go ahead, Dave.
And yeah, I think the other thing is I'll draw your attention to section 3 on page 3 of 10 of the the Blue Plan report. And in section 3, it refers to night sky lighting, and they go further to talk about hooded lighting and protection of wildlife and birds and bats and so on in relation to, and fish habitat in relation to the forest area around there. So if they do put lighting in place, it will be dark sky compliant and have reflectors to protect wildlife and so on. They've gone a bit further at the request of public comments that were received based on this.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on the bylaw? Seeing none, I'll turn it over to Lindsay for the vote, I hope.
Thank you, Mayor. Recorded vote called for bylaw 2022-113, Randhar Investments Wilder Lake subdivision approval. Councillor Dobrain?
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Milne has declared an interest. Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
By a vote of 6-0, that's carried.
Thank you. Next, we have motion moved by Barbara, seconded by Martin, and that's the Pullen Southgate Development Extension Agreement, final report. Anything on this one, Dave? Or Clint?
Dave, you're muted.
Yes, sorry about that. We'll get the buttons all hooked up here. Okay, so they're asking for an extension because of some of the timelines haven't followed through for them, and COVID has been a delay, but they're signing this agreement to reinforce that they're going to do the project and maintain the guidelines within the original agreement of turning the lands back if they don't develop within this term that they've suggested.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Barbara? And Brian?
Is through you to Dave, is Timeline in touch or having conversation with the Affordable and Attainable Housing Advisory Committee?
Not yet, but during this discussion, we have talked to him about this, the developer about this, and he does have interest in turning it into an affordable housing project.
Fantastic.
Okay, thank you. Brian and then Martin.
Thank you, John. I'm just wondering, Dave, and I can't recall, has there been an extension in the past? And if there has or hasn't, is the contractor eligible for a further extension should he need it?
So through the chair, they have invested in the property. I'll start with that, in that they put pipes in the ground to bury the drain from the back of the Corey Street property out to Hagan Street. So that's been done. So they've invested in the property. There has been no extensions granted since the first extension. And I think he realizes this has got to be done in this time frame, but the next council could, grant another extension if there was other extenuating circumstances. I don't think I can really comment, or I wouldn't recommend it. I think this is timelines enough to get going. But I hope that answers the question.
Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks, John. Just to clarify, John, Dave, did you say that they've already had one extension?
No, there has been no extensions.
All right.
Sorry, I misheard. This is the first extension following the original agreement.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Martin?
Yeah, just a comment. He builds a lot locally. He's a local builder. And further what Barb said, I actually did have a chat with him, a good 20-minute chat yesterday when I popped in on one of his job sites. And he is more than wishing to get this project on the go. He has some ideas, and he is more than interested in doing some, as was stated, affordable housing, whether townhomes or whatever. So I think we should grant him that. He is a local builder. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having a few more chats with him about that anyway. So it's all good. It's all good.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
Yeah, I'm along with Martin. I mean, he hasn't asked for anything. I know that he's been busy building, a lot of different houses on Main Street right now, and I know he's working on another one in between there, us and that lot. So I think it's not like he's sitting back waiting. I just don't think he has the time right now. He's just building house by house. So I think if we can give him a little bit more time to come up with a, I think it'd be fair. That's for sure.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Jim?
Brian, to Brian's question, I have here the PSA for 16th day of March 2022. Section 2, purchase of property. Closing date of this transaction shall be completed no later than 5 p.m. on the 31st day of May 2022, the completion date. Did they get an extension on that one?
I'm not sure that's the same agreement we're talking about. The purchase and sale agreement for this was January 17th, 2018 was when the purchase and sale agreement was approved by council by bylaw 2018-012.
You have the purchase and sale agreement for the 16th of March 2022.
And who's that with? What company?
With it's a corporation of the Township of Southgate and Wellington Investment Corp.
Yeah, that's the next report, I believe.
An extra what?
That's the next report where that agreement is for the Wellington. We're talking timeline contracting.
The problem with this agreement is there's too damn many copies. They're all different. I get 3 copies here for different vendors for this property.
Yeah, that's a different item, though, Jim. That's two after this. This is a Rob Pullen timeline contracting. So we'll get to that one in a couple of items. Are there any questions on the issue here? Not seeing any. Is anyone opposed to this motion? And that would be carried, so thank you. And next we will move on to the bylaw, moved by Jason, seconded by Brian. Any discussion on the bylaw? Okay, then Lindsay, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote called on bylaw 2022-119, the development amending agreement with Timeline Contracting. Councillor Shipston,
Yes.
Councillor Rice,
Yes.
Councillor O'Brien,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Milne,
Yay.
Councillor Shearson,
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury,
Yes.
Councillor Frew.
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Okay, thank you. Next is the Wellington Investments Dundalk Old Town Hall report, and that is moved by Michael, seconded by Martin. That's the sale agreement extension report. Dave, anything you wanted to add to this?
Yes, so the only thing I'll add is the reason really he's asking for 180 days, he doesn't believe he's going to need much more than 60 to 90. But the problem is us. I mean, we're going through lame duck in an election, and the 180 days will get him into dealing with another term of council and, you know, in January sort of thing. So that's the reason, but he's progressing well. He's got a lot of work done and hopes to, in the next 30 to 60 days, be talking to Bev about a building permit and moving on and then deciding on a closing date.
Excellent. Martin.
Yeah, I was going through this, and it definitely states in the contract or whatever, it definitely states clearly one time only for an extension of 180 days. So there's no reason why if it's in the books already, I think we have to give it to him. So, and that's good news, Dave, saying that he might not even need that. He can come in, and lame duck and all that is certainly a factor for something so important. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Barbara.
Through you to Dave. Dave, I noted in your staff report, you do speak to the financial implications and the future financial impact to be included in the 2023 budget. That $3,000 a month doesn't kick in until such time as the doors are open for us to use?
Correct. Correct.
Obviously, we do need to include it in the 2023 budget and anticipate that hopefully they'll open up in 2023, but it doesn't kick in as of January 1, 2023.
Yeah, so then the next discussion is, once we get the purchase and sale agreement, is okay, now you know what you're up against with the building, what's your construction timelines or upgrade timelines. So is that, you know, 6 months or 9 months, and then we can hopefully in January know that for the finalized budget and know that we need to, you know, one, put 3,000 a month in for 6 or 3 or 4 months or whatever. And at the same time, in concert with that, get an agreement that will kick in for the sponsorship we're looking for from Flato.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dave.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Brian and then Jason.
Thank you, John. I just wonder, has our building department been involved with the evaluation, Dave, with Wellington?
No, they have not. That's not a role we will play. He has consultants doing that work, and that work will then drive what will go into the design of the upgrades. That will then be submitted and reviewed when they have a package put together with the building department to review and issue a permit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Martin.
I think it was
fine,
Jason,
John.
Mayor Woodbury.
Oh, sorry. Yep, it was Jason.
Yeah, Jason.
I actually have that written down here. Okay, thanks, Jason.
No problem. Actually, I was going to ask what Brian did. Plus, so with this extension, Dave, Well, we know my thoughts on it, but what if he finds out it's going to cost him a lot more? Is he can still back out of this deal? Like, say it comes in a way more than he thinks, or
Yes,
because
he
we haven't
could.
signed the final thing yet. So
Yeah,
okay,
he very well he could.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
Just to add to that question, because I think it's a really good question. I have had no comments that were negative in that he is not going to fulfill what he signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
To this point.
Subject to change without notice or with notice or
with notice.
Subject to change. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions, so I will pose one. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. And now we have a bylaw moved by Barbara, seconded by Martin. Any discussion on the bylaw? Not seeing any. Let's put Lindsay to work and get her to ask everybody.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote called for bylaw 2022-118, the purchase and sale amending agreement with Wellington Investment Corp. Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Councillor Dobreen?
In favor.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
I vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Thank you. Next is the Gray Housing Corporation proposal report, moved by Jim, seconded by Barb. Dave?
My mouse isn't working too good, so I had to go with anyway. But all I'll add to it is I was extremely impressed with the interest that they had, and they applauded us for taking this initiative. But Jerry McNulty attended with me to the Grey Highlands. It was very good, and I'll just revert to the mayor for comments. He attended with me at West Grey and Hanover, and they were extremely positive as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Hanover was very positive, quite a few questions, but all of them were to do with more comments, positive comments, and kind of what we were looking at and how to get involved. And then we had a follow-up email from Sue Patterson, the mayor, saying that they would like to move forward with this. And West Grey was much the same, except for they did the motion right there while Dave and I were just finished the presentation, and they're on board. So there's a lot of interest. Nobody's committed to doing this. They're all looking, they want to see more and look into it more and find out more and move forward. So it was, I was actually surprised there wasn't somebody that was negative. It was very positive, every comment from both councils that I was at. Barbara?
Thank you, and thank you for the enthusiastic response from our neighboring municipalities. I think, to coin a phrase that Dave Milner uses quite often, the devil will be in the details, and everyone is interested in exploring those. So I'll look forward to learning more.
Okay, yep. Any other, Martin and Brian?
Yeah, just to comment, this was a great idea that was started off maybe 4 months ago. And when we were looking at housing corporations, it was usually the bigger centers, like Toronto has theirs, Owen Sound has theirs. And for a lower tier municipality, there's just no way we could do it by ourselves. So the fact that we've gone to other bordering municipalities and there's interest, that's the only way to do it. I'm not really into regionalism, but in this case, it's a good thing. And on top of that, I just want to thank you, John and Dave, for actually going to those meetings. I was working in Fergus. I really, really, really wanted to go, but the fact that you went out there and with Jerry, the first one, it obviously made quite an impression. So I'm sorry I wasn't be able to go, but thank you very much on behalf of the committee that you went, and we're going to be waiting to see what happens. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks. And I had the really tough part of standing there. And I did point out to both councils if they did have any questions to refer them to Dave. So those are my two big contributions at the meetings. Dave, go ahead.
I think just keep the conversation going. Like, obviously, we're going to work on the terms of reference, a very, loosely termed set of reference points, and then try and have a discussion meeting with 4 municipalities come together with a representation from staff and council to move this a bit forward. But I think what the most exciting thing was in the last month or so was we had a great meeting yesterday with the associate minister responsible for housing, and it was at the AMO conference on Tuesday, I believe. The Grey County led the discussion because we thought we'd be more powerful. And Kim brought up, the CEO of the county brought up our South Grey initiative, and the associate minister really applauded that and thinks that's a way we need to go. So we'll see where it goes, but I think it's an important initiative that we need to explore and see what we can do to put something together to create some capacity.
Yep. Well, like you've been saying at the presentations, instead of just talking about stuff, let's actually look at doing it and get right into it. See if it is feasible or not. So that's really good. Any other questions or comments, Brian?
I want to, encourage the committee to continue on and the staff to continue on with their exploration of the idea. But at the AMO conference, I was sitting in on one of the social services themed lunches, and one of the participants raised the question or the questions of when did social housing or attainable, or however you want to describe it, when did housing become the purview of municipalities? When did broadband become our issue or our problem? When did any number of things suddenly become our problems? These things have traditionally and obviously been issues of both the federal and provincial governments. So I agree that there needs to be some input at the lower levels or at the municipal level, but why is it all of a sudden our problem? And it is a problem, don't get me wrong. It needs to be dealt with. But of course the minister is going to be enthused to see that somebody else is dealing with their problem, as I see it. So, I applaud the initiative here, but I just want to temper it by saying that this is going to be another asset or assets that the township's going to take on potentially, and we better be prepared to maintain it long term. So just words of caution, I guess, or heads up, just to be aware of perhaps what we're getting into here. So anyway, enough said. Thank you.
Yep. And Brian, just my bit with that, to me, it's just another downloading, whether it's some of the medical that we've been downloaded, that it's a void that instead of directly downloading it to us, there's voids that aren't being filled that our people need. And I guess we're where the rubber meets the road. So
they call it downloading by stealth.
Yes. I had other word. Dave, did you want to add anything?
I think Jason had his hand up first.
Okay, Jason and Martin.
Well, yeah, I guess guess I will be that negative one you talked about, John, but I kind of agree with Brian. I applaud you for looking into this, and it's something that has to be looked into. But I just feel we should not be in that business. This should be a provincial level or at least a county level. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. But Brian said it well, I thought.
Mhm. Yep. No, I see that. Martin. That's your first time this meeting. You did really well. Not quite good enough, but
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah, inflation, that's 1020 in my jar. With what Brian and Jason said, I totally agree with it. It is downloading, but when I took on and Michael and when we became part of the committee, unfortunately somebody has to do something, and if it falls on a lower tier, because I totally agree. Looking into the history of why we're in this predicament with housing and what have you, it was provincial and federal malaise over the last 30, 35 years where they stopped cutting, they cut and cut and cut. And yeah, somebody has to pick up the ball. Unfortunately, it's the lower tier. So hopefully they'll get the message that they have to put some money into it as well. And Jason always says it's always taxpayers' money. We're all taxpayers, but unfortunately we have to pick up their slack. And that's what it is. Their slack in looking after housing issues. So that's just a comment, but.
Yep. Dave, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just to kind of wrap around that discussion. I mean, as we know, downloading hasn't been something that just started last week. In the 15 years I've been in this position, downloading has been sent by two different governments under two different leadership models. So, it started with land ambulance and so on and so on. I think the beauty, though, I want to make sure is clear is that, yeah, we're going to invest and put the booster cables on this initiative, but we're going to turn it over to a corporation that's going to have to fund it. Maybe we'll have to fund it and support it by our committee, doing things and stuff, but not fund these big projects. Like I've given up on, and so has Southeast Grey on the 10 units in the medical center, because our timing isn't right. We can't put that together overnight. And they're going to do some provisions within the building that maybe we can add space in the future, sort of thing. But the beauty of this is that we're going to create a corporation, and they're going to have to be self-standing, that they are going to fund. They're going to look for funding. They're going to look for partners and so on to put a package together that rent and grants and funding sources from other agencies can really look after these things. We, as administrative people, whether it's planning or, we don't have time for housing on our desks. That's going to fall off. It has been falling off over the years, and that's how we got here. So a housing corporation that's going to manage these 40, 30, 50-year projects and how they're funded and developed and maintained, it has to be done professionally, and it has to stand on its own, because the financial capacity we cannot handle 10, 20, $30 million investments in housing at this level.
Love your optimism.
Gotta have the optimism. Any other, Barbara?
Just to follow up on that, though, you do make mention that it would be an investment to hire someone to manage this at $40,000 a year. Is that just to get it off the ground and then it should be self-funded? Is that just that's just an initial, let's get this kick-started, and then that's not an ongoing requirement by each of the partners in this housing corporation to fund that on an ongoing basis?
Well, the plan is we need to get some seed money to get it started, and the $40,000 a year, I anticipate could be for, up to 4 or 5 years. But at some point, they're going to have to get funding to do projects and to fund themselves. That may be a pipe dream, but there's got to be government funding to support these organizations. It's not something, you know, if municipalities have to contribute 40 or 50,000 a year, maybe that's not a bad investment, but we can't be contributing $1 million or $2 million to build something and be then looking after it and maintaining it and making sure the renters, that needs professional management by financial people, by building maintenance people, and by dedicated leadership on that file only.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Martin.
Yeah, I think the key here is for everybody to realize what Dave said. It is going to be a self-governing an entity to itself once it gets started and going. And the crucial thing is to have the partners. Going through Orangeville the other day, I noticed there was a sign up for notice of application for the town of Orangeville for a new build. And the people involved was obviously the company, the developer, and it was being partnered with the Houses for Humanity organization because they were looking at townhomes. So it depends on the partners you get and depends on the experience. So I can imagine that development going up pretty quick and being affordable because Houses for Humanity, that's their gig, right? So the partnership thing is very important. Just a comment.
Mm-hmm. And having a specialist that knows what to do with all this stuff. Any further questions or comments? Dave or Jason?
Jason, go ahead.
Okay, Jason?
Yeah, well, no, I'm glad Dave said that we don't have time to do it. I just, you know, I just worry we're going to invest the time we do in something like this and nothing will get done anyway, like it never gets done at any level. I really don't think we need to be in that business. I understand we're going to turn it over to a corporation, but we maybe invest 3 or 4 years of even at 40,000 in our time, and then it stops anyway. I guess you got to try, but I'm very leery.
Yeah, and that's what this first part will be, is finding things out. So, yeah. Dave.
Yeah, just want to go back that I don't want to lead you down the path that we'll be able to strike housing off our bucket list. We'll still need affordable housing committee. We'll still need to talk about policies. There was a lot of discussion at AMO about vacancy. We just got rid of vacancy tax rebate. They're now talking about maybe we need to tax at a higher level people that have vacancy and push them into, creating housing, whether conversions or whatever. And I think we're going to need to look at policies for downtown that's going to maybe consume more of our storefront building. That maybe a bit at the front of the building will be commercial, but the back and the upper floors are pushed to convert it to affordable housing. And one thing that I will say too is we attended an event that Roma put on, and they've just released a report on housing, and they have not used the word affordable. They're saying that's a dangerous place, or it's a difficult term. They believe we need to focus on attainable housing that's attainable to our community and the incomes in our community, and that we need to look at policies that incent developers and get it off our cost, but force and incent developers to create affordable housing, that middle housing that is really missing, not these big 3,000 square foot things, but something in the order of 1,000 to 1,200 square feet that can be made attainable. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thanks. Michael, did I see your hand up?
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, as we look at, the whole picture and the presentation and understand, I'm part of the committee too. I mean, we've seen a couple things in the last little bit, interest rates have gone up a little bit. Now you see houses on markets for more than a half a day, 2 days. They're sitting there for 3 and 4 weeks. So, I mean, that's going to drive some of the incentives for people to do some of it. I mean, and also the other thing is when we met with the guys in Durham over there, that's a private company. The committee got them started over there working with Owen Sound at Grey County, but those guys are on their own now. They got a 20-year deal over there. They look after the maintenance. They look after collecting all the money. You know, you just kind of like wash your hands, but you just got to get those key guys in there that want to do that sort of thing. And that's, I think, what the committee really needs to do is set the parameters up and see what other investors out there want to get into this market and build some of these, you know, throughout the county is what we need. But again, we don't want to be, I don't think, in the housing business ourselves, but yet we want to make sure that we can say, hey, you know, here's a committee, you know, throughout the county and say, here, let's go, you know, and just support them. That's it.
We might have lost Mayor Woodbury.
Mayor has left the building.
John, can you hear us? I guess we lost connection with the mayor. Deputy Mayor Milne, do you care to take over until we get John back?
Do I care to take over?
Would you please?
Yes, I will. Absolutely. We were at the point, we haven't voted on this to receive it yet, have we? No.
No.
Okay, we have
Yeah.
a mover and seconder, though, I presume.
Yes, we do.
All right.
Was...
So any further comments on the motion at hand? Not hearing any, I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed? Not seeing any opposition, I'll declare that carried. Moving on to the next report, it is the Planning Department. It is staff report PL 2022-058. Lindsay, I don't have the list of movers and seconders. Can you help me there?
Yeah, mover, Councillor Shipston and Councillor Rice.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Clinton, over to you.
Thank you, Chair Milne. It's a pretty straightforward report for a site plan approval for a shop. Yeah, and I'm recommending it be approved.
Your longevity of reports is tiring, I have to admit. Any questions on the report? Comments, questions? Jason.
Just noticed in the staff comments, and I'm supportive of it, about applying dust control measures at the township's discretion. Have we had that in other ones, or have I just missed it? Just at the township's discretion kind of jumped out at me.
That is through the chair. That is in all of them that I can recall. Essentially, if we get a complaint or if it's particularly dusty, we could ask them to go get a water truck and throw some water down.
Thanks, Clint. Any other questions, discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed? Not seeing any opposition, declare that carried. Moving on to the bylaw. Mover and seconder, Lindsay.
Councillor Dobreen and yourself. So we'll.
Do I have a seconder for that? Michael?
Shouldn't move it. Second it.
Michael's the seconder. Thank you. Any discussion regarding the bylaw? Not seeing any. I'll turn it over to the clerk for taking the poll, please.
Thank you, Mayor, or thank you, Deputy Mayor Milne, pardon me. Recorded vote called for bylaw 2022-110, site plan for JFAB manufacturing. Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury is absent. Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen?
In favor.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
By a vote of 6-0, that's carried.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to staff report PL 2022-059, Enoch and Naomi Bowman. Do I have a mover and seconder, Lindsay, please?
Councillor Shearson and Councillor Shipston.
Excellent, thank you. Clinton, anything to add?
the main difference with this one to some other ones is the existence of the rail trail that runs through the property. And county comments recommended we request them to put stop signs at the crossing. And we've put that in the agreement to require them to put up stop signs there.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns, comments? If I may, oh, Barb, go ahead.
Just one question through you to Clinton with regard to the stop signs, the requirement for them to put up stop signs. Will they be inspected by our Public Works Department to ensure proper size, proper location, enforcement, maintenance?
Through the chair, no. These are signs on a private property, and it's really to promote safety on the trail, basically for crossing the trail of any equipment or trucks or what have you. And so it's no different actually than a stop sign in a parking lot in Walmart or wherever. Those are not actually part of the roadway and not maintained by the city or township, but they do direct traffic and promote safety.
Go ahead.
One follow-up.
Yep.
So those stop signs will be on the drive controlling the traffic crossing the rail trail, as opposed to stop signs on the rail trail controlling that traffic.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Jim, I see you've logged on. Do you want to comment?
Add that being a user of the trail systems, you see this quite a bit in this stretch from Dundalk all the way up to Holland Center, Chatsworth. You'll cross some private laneways, some farm field access. That is posted generally with the clubs themselves that are managing the trails. But you do see the odd place where they also stop the private driveway as well. I guess I don't know. Maybe that was the owners doing or request that they because of their traffic concerns. But again, that's something as Clint mentioned that wouldn't be enforced by us.
Very good. Any other questions, comments? Not seeing any. I'll call the questions. Anyone opposed to receiving the report? No opposition. I'll declare that carried. Thank you very much, Clinton. There's no bylaw to go with that one. Lindsay, is there? Oh, Clint, go ahead.
Yeah, there is.
Oh, there is a bylaw. Oh, okay, very good. Oh yeah, I see it there now. Yep, sorry, my apologies. Mover and seconder, Lindsay.
Councillor Dobreen and Councillor Frew.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, discussion regarding the bylaw? Not seeing any. I'll ask the clerk to take the poll.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Milne. Recorded vote called bylaw 2022-117 site plan agreement with Enoch and Naomi Bauman. Councillor Frew.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne.
Yay.
Councillor Rice.
Yes.
Councillor Shipston.
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen.
In favor.
Councillor Shearson.
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury, I see you're back, but I'm not sure if you're there.
He's right there. But can you hear us, John? Nope.
And he left. So he is absent for this vote. So by a vote of 6-0, that's carried.
Excellent. Thank you, Lindsay. Moving on to bylaws in motion, we have a bylaw 2022-121, establishment of a highway, part of Hagen Street. Mover and seconder, Lindsay.
Councillor Shearson and Councillor Shipston.
Okay, thank you. Who's the staff member that would like to speak to that bylaw? Clint?
I
Or
will,
Jen?
Deputy Mayor
Oh, you
Milne.
will. Okay. Go ahead. Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah, just really simple, kind of like we had the same sort of thing on the last council meetings agenda, just to put a few parts into Hagen Street. So just kind of some cleanup, basically.
Okay.
In
thanks
road in
very much.
conjunction with our lawyer. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Any questions or discussion regarding the bylaw in front of us? Not seeing any. I'll ask the clerk to take the poll.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Milne. Recorded vote for bylaw 2022-121 to establish a highway part of Hagen Street. Councillor Dobreen,
In favor?
Councillor Shearson,
Yes.
Councillor Frew,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne.
Yay.
Mayor Woodbury is still absent. Councillor Rice,
Yes.
Councillor Shipston,
Yes.
by a vote of 6-0, that's carried.
Excellent. Thank you, Lindsay. Moving on to notices of motion. I see Councillor Dobreen has one on the docket there. Just before we go there, though, Lindsay, are there any or council members? Is anyone else have a notice of motion? Okay, because I might forget to ask that question after we discuss this one. So over to you, Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you, Chair Milne, Deputy Mayor Milne. And I will read the recommendation part 1. Whereas 2023 budget deliberations will be underway before the new term of council is inaugurated and meets for the first time. And whereas it is important for staff and council to have a completed compensation market analysis in order to adequately prepare the 2023 budget for consideration. Therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to section 24.12 of the procedural bylaw, council amends something previously adopted, being resolution number 2022-452, approved at the July 6, 2022 regular meeting of council concerning staff report HR 2022-033 market check, that stated the following. Be it resolved that council receives staff report HR 2022-033 for information, and that council directs staff to proceed internally with a council compensation review, and that council directs staff to discuss hiring a consultant for a staff market check during 2023 budget discussions, and that council consider amending the previously adopted motion, being the second clause, at the August 18th council meeting.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Barb. Do we have a seconder for that notice of motioner? Martin is seconding it. Very good. Now, does everyone understand what we're actually is being asked of council on this particular notice of motion? Madam Clerk, perhaps you could add maybe just a little bit of clarification of what exactly are we being asked right now?
Sure. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Milne. So since this was previously brought to council, procedurally, it's we're amending something that was previously adopted. So basically, we have to do it in 2 steps. This first step that Councillor Dobreen just read is to basically put it back on the floor, which does require a 2/3 vote. Mayor Woodbury he's maybe arriving. If we have 6, 2/3 is 4. If we have 7, 2/3 is 5. So that would be the first step. If that is approved, then Councillor Dobreen would introduce her second part of the motion, which would be to amend Kayla's original resolution that was approved to add those second clauses that she had on there.
Excellent. Thank you, Lindsay. So to be clear, the first portion or the first question is strictly a procedural matter to put it back on the floor for further discussion. Correct. Anything to add, Councillor? Yes. Anything to add, Councillor Dobreen, before I go to discussion or questions from council?
No, thank you, Chair Milne, and thank you, Lindsay. You've explained it very well. This is really just to open it back up for discussion, which will then explain why I felt it important to bring forward in the first place.
Very good. Okay, any questions or discussion from council?
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Milne, I just want to, Mayor Woodbury, are you there? Can you hear us? He seems still frozen, but I do see him.
Yeah, I can see him too, but he's either holding very
Okay.
still or he's frozen. Oh, he's left the building again.
So I think we'll proceed with him as absent because he's not responding.
Okay. So again, any questions or discussion from council? Or indeed any staff if they wish to chime in here. Okay, not seeing any, I'll call the question. Is there?
Sorry, I'm having. Just
Sorry,
like
Dave.
to talk.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Dave.
No,
You're going to comment on the concerns. You're going to comment on the procedural question in front of us, correct?
No, more so what we have now and the present direction we have. That I think the present direction we have is enough to work through, find the actual needs for a budget. We know that these things are going to go up. The problem is that there's going to be a fair bit of timing required. If we do go to a market check and need a market check, yes, we can get this data from OMA. They're still working on it. The county is working on putting the lower tiers data into it, which is important for us. And we may get a much more fiscally cheaper solution. But we're going to need to. Sorry about that. We're going to need to do some work on that, and I think we'll have to tender, and that's going to take some time. We'll have to then have the organization go through a process of evaluating where we need to be. Where if we do it ourselves, we can do it much cheaper. Plus, we're going to have a lot of decisions with the new council as to how we implement. The last one when we implemented, we just didn't implement it over a year. We implemented over multiple year transition to make it affordable to the budget. So there's a lot of discussions to go on, but I think if it's just the budget you're concerned about, we have the data available to project what the budget should look like. We'll likely need more direction. Kayla will need more direction in the next few meetings as to what our transition plan would be if it's going to be $100, $200, or $300,000 to transition our wage grid to that plan. Because in 2018 we did this. We sent letters to every employee. So this is not a short process. If we think we can have it ready for January 1st with a market check, that's not going to happen, even if we go out to get bids for it and get a report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor DeBreen.
Through you, thank you, Dave. I'm not sure what your recommendation is. My concern or my reason for bringing this forward was that the new term of council, whomever that is, may not have adequate, and staff may not have adequate information to evaluate. They'll just be relying on information that staff have brought forward. Would it not? I mean, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Are you suggesting it's not necessary, or are you suggesting that we can have the discussion?
Well, I think the direction we already have is sufficient to take the information to the next term of council. When we did the last one, it was in the same kind of timelines. And it was done in 2018 with this council when we went into, am I right? Maybe I'm one off, but anyway, we went into that, and by the time we got this stuff implemented, it was April and May when we got letters out to employees. So we've got ample information, we got ample direction from council as it is, without doing the market check to get it into budget, if budget is what you're concerned about.
Okay, Barb? Or you have further questions? Or does anyone else have a question or comment?
I'm still unsure, because I still am not confident that that if we do have to go out, if the next term of council has to go out for a market assessment, and then that takes 3 months, that you won't have adequate information to convince the new term of council on the direction. Unless you're saying, Dave, that the county's already doing it or someone else has already done it within the past 12 months that we can borrow.
So the Ontario Municipal Administrators Associations is working on a program that will load other municipalities into a system and provide these types of reports for what we need. And Grey County lower tiers are working collaboratively to put that together at the CO level and get that information in. It will have other municipalities that we have to compare to, but I think if we just take the process as we've been directed with the motion from the previous meeting of July, we can still achieve the budgeting. And once that's really first step in improving, are we going ahead with a market check? Why do a market check if we're not going to approve the budget to do it? And we're not there yet. So the budget would need to be approved. Then we decide whether the OMAA data is good enough to support a true market check and implementation of change. And then the thing is that can we afford what is council budget? We're going to chew it all off in 1 year, or are we going to implement these salary transitions over a period of 1, 2, or 3 years? That'll be another decision. And it took us into, we were sending letters out in April and May that year when we did that work to tell people what their new rate of pay would be. So it's not
right,
it's not like a.
And my point is that we need to start moving to provide staff with as much information as possible and the new term of council so that those discussions are adequate and we are not dragging this out until 2024 to determine when such, and I'm getting into the argument of the next stage. We're already discussing this again, and I'm not sure if that's in order, but I let my motion stand.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we are almost discussing the next piece of the motion, but it does have relevance to whether we, how we vote on this one. In any case, Martin, go ahead. You're muted, sir.
Thank you. Just a question for what Dave brought up with the AMO. There's 440 different municipalities. How do you know the way they're doing that information, Dave? Like, have they got to take an average of all of them, or what kind of figure are we looking at there so you can put it into the budget or look at the budget wise?
Yeah. So just to clarify, it's OMAA, Ontario Municipal Administrators Association.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
there's lots of these acronyms, so that's easy to cross them off. But what they're doing is they're providing a service that will load lower tier and upper tier municipal data, salary data, and council data into a system. And that work is ongoing, and the County of Grey is looking at, and the lower tiers at looking at partnering together and putting all our data in there. If that data gets in there, which should be happening in September, we understand, that will be in our mind as good as a market check. That's yet to be seen, but it will be definitely sufficient information to do proper budgeting and proper decision making. But I think that, that's a decision the next term of council to say, yes, we can put it in the budget when we approve it and decide based on the data that we have prior to a market consultation process. Do we want to pay $30,000 to do a market check? Have we got enough data from OMAA to do the change that we need to implement based on that reporting? And then we can go forward and put letters before staff as to here's what your new salary will be, and there will be a 1, 2, or 3 year transition or whatever we decide. And it will take into account council compensation as well. And that's a whole other discussion, because in the past we've put that out to peers such as former mayors and so on to do that kind of comprehensive review on the council side.
Okay, Councillor DeBreen.
One last point or support of my moving forward. This is just for staff to develop an RFP. If at some point that OMAA data, like, as you say, Dave, if it turns out that come September the data is loaded and it appears that a market check is not necessary, I trust that staff will advise us accordingly. But this is, I mean, we're now into the second motion, and I think procedurally, I think we need to follow through on my, anyway. I'll leave it up to you, Chair Milne.
Oh, thanks for the confidence. No pressure. All right. Oh, Dave, go ahead.
So was that suggesting that we're amending it to prepare, or to prepare and it's going to stay prepare and release, because that's two different things?
No, the last I understood from the mover was that the motion was going to stand. Is that changed, Barb?
So my original motion is to put it on the floor for discussion.
Correct.
And we haven't even had that vote yet.
No.
So point of order, I'd like to get my part one first, then we can discuss how best to move forward if that's even council's intent.
Right. Okay.
Basically gone ahead and had the discussion, most of it.
I know. But we're a congenial bunch here, and I think we know what we're doing. Well,
absolutely.
I'll exclude myself from that confidence. Mike, did I see your hand up? Nope. Okay. Anyone else have any questions or concerns about the procedural piece here? Whether we want to have a vote, or we're going to have a vote, which will determine whether we discuss the second part. Okay, not seeing any. Is anyone opposed to the motion on the floor?
I think Deputy Mayor Milne, I'll do a recorded vote if you don't mind, just because it's
Absolutely.
a 2/3 vote.
I was going to say, if someone was opposed, and I did see someone opposed there, I was going to ask you to take a recorded vote. So please do.
So thank you, Deputy Mayor Milne. In this case, Mayor Woodbury is absent, so we have 6 members, so 4 are required for a 2/3 vote.
Very good.
Councillor Rice?
No.
Councillor Shipston?
Yeah. Yes.
Mayor Woodbury is absent. Councillor Shearson?
No.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Councillor Dobreen?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
No.
Sorry, say that again, please, Councillor Frew. You were muffled.
No.
Okay, by a vote of 3-3, that has lost.
Okay, so that determines what we don't discuss for the rest of the notice of motion. All right, thank you very much. Moving on to the consent items in item number 12 on the agenda, regular business consent items. Do we have a mover and seconder, Lindsay?
We do. Councillor Frew and Councillor Shearson.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any comments or questions on any of those regular business notices of motion? Barb, go ahead. And then Martin.
My apologies. I'm just looking. No, it's the next one. Thank you.
Okay, Martin, go ahead.
I just want to 12.11 with Terry's report about the work she's doing. I just wanted to commend her. It must be a long, hard haul, and she's doing a really good job trying to promote the township, putting the restaurants in along with the app. So kudos to her. 12.13, I did notice something. If Bev is on the line, which I think he is, just maybe a question about some of the unresolved property standards. Just a question, Bev. with this property standards 63 and then vehicles 54, is there a direct correlation between the two? Or is vehicles something parked where it shouldn't be? Or it might seem a silly question, but I was wondering if you could answer that.
There's no silly questions. Bev, are you on the line?
And if he isn't, I can certainly call him after the meeting and just ask. But
Well, I see he's listed as logged in.
there he
There
is.
he is. There he is. Ask and ye shall receive. Mr. Fisher.
Yes. Good morning,
afternoon,
Bev.
sir. Good morning, Bev. Go ahead.
Good morning, Councilor Chichton, Deputy Mayor Milne. I must apologize. Yes, I'm logged in, but unfortunately I'd like to say diligently working at another task and not really paying attention. If you could repeat, please.
Martin?
No, I was just looking through your numbers there, Bev, and I just noticed with property standards unresolved there was 63, and then vehicles 54. Is there a direct correlation between the two, like having scrap yards on a property, or is there something else?
No, I would say it's not scrap yards. It's individual property owners.
Yeah.
I believe that maybe the residents of Southgate are realizing we have a bylaw officer and they might get some action now, so they're making more complaints on derelict vehicles that have been parked for a long time.
Okay, I just wondered that. That's good enough. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Martin, and thank you, Bev. Barb, I see your hand up. You are muted, Barb.
Through you, and I'll make this quick because I think we're going to need a notice of motion to go past noon. I'm not sure if we can do that in the middle of this one.
Sure. Is that what your motion was, to go past noon?
Well, I'm looking to Lindsay as to whether or not, can we do that? I think we can.
Yeah, so we've got 7 minutes left to deal with the meeting. Let's make a motion if you want to go past noon, and then it's done. Moved by Barb, seconded by Martin. Any discussion? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to going past noon? Jim is opposed, so I'll ask Lindsay to take the poll, please.
Recorded vote called for the motion to go past noon. Councillor Daubrien?
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Mayor Woodbury is absent. Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
I have another appointment shortly, so my answer is no.
Okay, by a vote of 5-1, that is carried.
Very good. Okay, now we're back to the, not a problem. Barb, you were wanting to ask a question regarding the regular business consent.
Thank you. And I just wanted to welcome Marion Bosch to the library team.
Very good. Thank you. We all extend the best of wishes for her. Okay, nothing else. We need to vote on whether we receive those in the consent. I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed? Not seeing any. I'll declare that carried. Moving on to regular correspondence for information. Lindsay, who are the movers and seconders, please?
Councillor Rice and Councillor Daubrien.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions or discussion regarding those, I don't know, 9, 10 items there? Barb, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair Milne. And I did have questions about 3 of the items. 12.2.2, the Holstein Agro Expo and Rodeo. I'm delighted to hear that it was a success and that they're changing the date. But I wondered if we get a report on just how much they actually have contributed year over year to the Louise Marshall Hospital as a result We do contribute $2,500 to this event, and it would be great to know just how our local hospital is benefiting. I'm not sure if Liam gets that information.
Lindsay, are you aware of any report from the agro? No?
No, I don't believe so, Liam. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've ever seen one.
Go ahead, Liam.
In each annual application, we get a financial statement from their prior event, I believe. So I don't have a summary or that handy right in front of me, but I do have some financial reports in my folder. And I don't know if any of that has come to council previously.
Okay.
So that would be part of the process of them requesting funding in the future. They would provide that information, hopefully. Okay.
Yes.
That's the way it goes? Yes. Okay, good.
Thank you. I guess if I may continue.
Yep, absolutely.
12.2.3 Ontario Sheep Farmers Livestock Guardian Use in Ontario. Perhaps this is for Bev or Dave. Dave may be a little bit quite familiar with it. I know that we have working dogs and we protect them or exempt them from certain things, Dave, and I just wanted to know, this is a generic distribution to all of municipalities. Is our canine control bylaw in good shape and adequate to address some of their concerns?
Dave?
Oh, Bev has his hand up too.
Go ahead then, Bev.
Bev?
I just wanted to make comment. We are currently reviewing our canine bylaw. I hope to bring something forward probably in the new year, early January. And we found a few weak spots, so to say, that we'd like to tighten up a little bit.
Okay, good. Barb?
Perhaps this document will help feed that along. And my final one was the Platinum Jubilee 12.2.9, the additional request from MP Alex Ruff. It's unfortunate that the timing was such that we couldn't meet to at least consider going out to the community to get, nominations perhaps, but I do want to recognize that there is an individual in our community that has been recognized, and so deservedly so. And unfortunately, we've missed a second deadline that they have provided due to our meeting arrangements. We wouldn't have even met had it not been for this special meeting. So it's unfortunate this time, but perhaps another time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else regarding that particular item or those items listed there? Okay, not seeing any. I'll call the questions. Anyone opposed to receiving these? Not seeing any opposition. I'll declare that carried. Moving on to resolutions of other municipalities. Lindsay, who are the movers and seconders, please?
I'll need a mover.
Okay,
And
someone
Councillor
care to
Frew.
move that? Mike, thank you. Seconder is?
Councillor Frew.
Very
Oh,
good.
he's maybe.
Oh, he's not here. I don't see him anyway.
Yeah, let's.
Martin will second that. Any discussion or questions regarding resolutions? I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them there. Not seeing any. I'll call the questions. Anyone opposed to receiving those? Not seeing any opposition. I'll declare that carried. We are now going to go into closed session. So I need a motion to go into.
No. These are just the closed consent items.
Okay. So I need a mover and seconder there. Or who are the movers and seconders for that?
Yeah, movers and seconders were Councillor Shearson and Councillor Shipston.
Okay, so this is item 12.4. Sorry, I'm just working on the agenda here. Is that correct? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's.
So the movers and seconders are there. Any discussion? If there is any discussion, we'll have to go into closed session. Not seeing any discussion, I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to receiving those? No opposition. I'll declare that carried. Thank you very much. County report. This is normally where I'd say to John, do you have anything, John, you'd like to ask or say about county? But John's not here, so I'll have to say, I don't think there's any particular items unless anybody has any questions regarding county stuff. Nope, not seeing any. That's good on my part anyway. Members' privilege, good news and celebrations. Anybody have anything? Barb.
I just wanted to report that the Youth Action Committee held their first International Youth Day since the pandemic began, and it was successful. They met some new youth to the community, and those individuals have signed up for or will be participating in the future. So they had a good time Friday night and Saturday. And I did want to mention that the library, Friends of the Library, are holding a books and barbecue sale on Friday from 4 till 7 p.m. at the library. It'll go to the Friends, which ultimately helps to support our local library. And last but not least, Junction Community Initiatives is holding an in-person Stars of Southgate and Beyond concert Saturday, August 27th. And it is at the Legion in support of the Legion.
Excellent. Thank you, Barb. It's always a good time at the Legion. Just in regards to the library event, books and barbecue sale, does that mean they're selling books and barbecues, or they're selling books and they're barbecuing stuff?
So the fire department is going to be barbecuing burgers and hot dogs. And they are selling books, and they are also welcoming any donations of quality, good condition books that could be sold. Those books would need to be contributed or dropped off at the library, I would say by Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest, so that they can be sorted into the appropriate categories. And it's all a fundraiser.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Members' privilege? Mike?
Yeah, the Dundalk Fire Department are going to be having the community bonfire safety at the fairgrounds at 7 p.m. here at in Dundalk.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
What date?
The 19th. Friday night at 7.
That's this Friday night, tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
There you go. Good. Anyone else? Okay, not seeing any. We don't have any closed meeting, I believe. Is that correct? Yes, we do not. Yes, we do not. That didn't sound right. So we have the confirming bylaw. Who would like to move and second that? Lindsay, do you have a mover and seconder there?
I do. Councillor Rice and Councillor Shearson.
Very good. Any discussion? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? No opposition. That is carried. And as we have finished the agenda, Councillor DeBreen, you have an item?
Point of order, confirming bylaw.
Yeah.
It's a bylaw. Lindsay has to take the roll call.
Yeah, I guess. Okay.
You were doing so well.
I was on a roll there. I was on a roll. All right, Lindsay, go ahead. Take the poll. Nope, that's good. Thank you.
Recorded vote called for the confirming bylaw. Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor DeBreen?
Yes.
Deputy Milne?
Yay.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury and Councillor Furr are both absent, so by a vote of 5-0, that's carried.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And as we have now completed the agenda, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for attending. It's been a good meeting. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day. Cheers, all.
Thank you. Cheers.